Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Growing Up with Godzilla. This is my show where I have conversations with Godzilla fans about how they've grown with the character and franchise over time. We are officially halfway through season 3 of the show, which is mind boggling. But here we are, and I've had some familiar faces returning, I've had some new faces making their first appearance on the show, and I'm really excited that tonight's episode is going to feature someone who I've not had on yet, and we've been talking for a while, and finally the stars have aligned for us to do an episode together. And I am beyond excited to welcome the senior editor and content creator of Kaiju United and the operator of the delightful Instagram page Kaiju Junkie, the iconic Nick Crispino. How are you, my friend?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I know. I think the one time we did substantially hang out online was when we were reacting to Minus One's Oscar win,
Yes.
and that I was like, this is a cool person. Like, I need to get to know this really cool person. So, bam, here we are.
Fun fact, did you know the video I put together of all of us reacting, Takashi Yamazaki actually shared that on his Twitter.
I did know that, and I'm still like pinching myself over it. The fact that he got to see all of us, in one of our more slovenly, like yet amusing moments, like reacting to it was wonderful. Like I had so much fun, and I'm so glad that he got to see us celebrating the phenomenal film.
I forget
Honestly,
who it was, but they were like, "Look what Yamazaki just retweeted." I'm like, "No, he didn't. There's no way. Like this isn't real." Like,
did you have a moment where you were like having an existential crisis over it, where you're like, oh my god?
I was sort of like, I wasn't fangirling, but I was like, "Oh, that is really, really neat." It was sort of like disbelief and oh my God, like that is so cool. I don't really know how to
Well,
describe it.
I was fangirling for you because I saw that and I was like, oh my god.
Mhm.
So, but no, I'm really excited that we are sitting down to have this conversation because you've been doing a lot of really, I would say, important community building, not only via your Kaiju Junkie page, which shares a lot of clips and memes, so on and so forth, related to Godzilla, but also you've been doing a lot of important work with Kaiju United. I was just telling Nick in the back room that Kaiju United is very much like a home to me, because obviously it features Growing Up with Godzilla, but like I've made so many wonderful friends. I've had some very enriching, connections with people. And it's just, I think it's been a great hub for kaiju fans. So thank you for all that important work that you do.
Of course. I mean, it's just I don't really see it as work because I have so much fun when I do it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've met Jacob last year at G Fest and I found out about his website and I was like, can I just interviewed this guy at a G Fest, Richard Pusateri, who
Mm.
was the guy who coined the term Geno for when referring to Godzilla in '98. And I was like, hey, I really don't have plans to release the full interview. I was just using it for social media clips. Can we like put this on the website? And he said, yeah, and the rest is history.
See,
I
and
was just
that's
like,
it's
this is
all about
fun.
networking. It's all about
Yeah.
networking, right? Well, and it's like this for me does not feel like work at all. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of editing and stuff that goes into it, but if it's enriching, then, does it really feel like work? And no, it doesn't, right?
I mean, what's the old saying? Love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Bam, exactly. So, and we'll be talking about your development of that Instagram page and, of course, your involvement with Kaiju United a little bit more here in a little bit. But I really want to delve into your history as a Godzilla fan because obviously that's why we're all here, right? So,
Mhm.
how were you first introduced to Godzilla all the way from the beginning?
So I must have been about 4 or 5 years old. My grandma worked at the local library, and she would always bring, whenever she would babysit us, she would always bring my brother and I like DVDs and VHS tapes to watch. This is like 2000, 2001. So like VHSs were going out and DVDs were coming in. And I was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid.
Mhm.
Um, and so she would always bring me, Jurassic Park, Land Before Time, all that good stuff. And one day, she brought a Godzilla movie. I don't remember the specific like one, but if I had to guess, it might have been Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, the Heisei one.
Ooh, okay.
Might have been. Like I really it was so long ago I don't even remember. But yeah, I just fell in love with it, and all throughout my childhood, it's something that I was obsessed with, and it's really something I never grew out of. Well, there was like a brief period of time when I was in middle school for like a year or two where I sort of like my interest in Godzilla sort of fizzled out. I still liked watching the movies, but I mean, it was sort of replaced with other interests at the time. And then I remember it was seventh grade art class. I was just daydreaming, not really caring about what the teacher was teaching us, and I was just like, I want to play. Like, I just got the strongest urge to play Godzilla Save the Earth. I don't
Oh, my
know.
favorite.
I don't know why. I think I was thinking about the final war scene with Rodan in New York City, and I was just like,
Hmm.
I just want to be Rodan and destroy buildings right now. Like, I really wish I hadn't given my copy of Save the Earth like back to GameStop. So when I got home, I had my mom take me to GameStop, and was looking for a used copy. I found one, and I just played that game all night. I was just like, and from that moment on, my obsession with Godzilla was it resparked, and yeah, just
I love that.
been
Well,
obsessed ever since.
it sounds like that was during like the decade where we didn't have any Godzilla stuff, like
Y-
between Final Wars and 2014, right?
yes, this was seventh grade. Oh, probably it was like 2007, 2008, maybe. I don't
Hmm.
know, but definitely like late 2000s, in that like in the midst of the Godzilla drought from 2004 to 2014. Yeah, and
And those games were the only thing keeping us sane at that time, honestly,
it was
because.
that Cinemassacre's Monster Madness,
Hmm.
all those fake Godzilla new movie 2012 trailer,
Oh
fake
God, I
trailers
remember
everybody
those.
that everybody was making, and I would be that kid, just searching for the internet, just like looking for an actual trailer, as if a multi-million-dollar studio would just throw out a trailer for a new Godzilla movie without any promotion whatsoever. I mean,
Right, absolutely.
just toss it on the web, they'll find it.
No, like I do remember. So back then, I think it was around 2007. That was my first G Fest that I went to. I was literally I finished high school at that time, and we were like there was just like so much hype about like Godzilla Unleashed had just come out, and now we're like there was like whispers of a new Godzilla movie, and then it just kept being time kept passing and nothing would happen, right? So I think at a certain point we just got like very we were all so depressed over no Godzilla content. But then of course, fast forward to the MonsterVerse finally happening. It was out of this world because we did not think that Godzilla would ever, make a huge return. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of satiate yourself with Godzilla Save the Earth. That's still like one of my favorite games. I am sort of ashamed to admit that I still have my old Xbox from 3,000 years ago. And during the pandemic, I was like, damn it, I want to play this game again. I've missed it so much. So my copy, I literally had played so much that it was just worn out. So I went on eBay and I engaged in a bidding war and I bought an Xbox version for $175.
Oh man. I mean,
I
hey,
spent $175 on Godzilla Save the Earth. But you know what? I've gotten my money's worth.
if it makes you feel any better, I sold my copy of the Godzilla PS4 game when it was valued at $80, and now it's valued at almost $200. Yeah,
Oh no.
not a.
It's kind of wild how
I
expensive
sold
they
low,
are.
as they say.
It's so wild how expensive they are these days. I keep hoping that like the studios will be like, let's release an online version that's downloadable or something like that. Like they
Nope.
would make bank off of that stuff because we are thirsty for those games. Like,
And you want to know the thing is, like, it's not that hard to make a Godzilla game. Like, all the fans just want Save the Earth, Destroy All Monsters Melee, and Unleashed again. 2014 PS4 game, the 2015 actually. That was a good attempt. I mean, I liked it for what it was, but I don't
I had
know.
fun, but I don't think it really. I mean, the story, I do like that the Pipeworks games had, like, a story component. The stories were very, like, campy, alien
Meanwhile,
attacks and stuff, but it was great.
yeah, meanwhile 2015 is just like Godzilla's body temperature is rising fast. The only way blah blah just that like general screaming in your ear.
We'll
Like
never forget that.
I sold that game to a friend of mine who owns a video game store. He's like, "Hey, do you have this game? Like, I'll give you I it was like either 80 or $100 or something." He's like, "I'll give it to you for $100." And then like about a couple months later, I was talking to him and I was like, "Oh, did you ever wind up selling the Godzilla game?" He's like, "Yeah, it, like after you sold it to me, it shot up in value." And I was like, "Fuck."
Oh no.
I mean, hey, I'm the one who sold it, so it's I have nobody
Hmm.
to blame but myself. He was just being a businessman.
Well, you couldn't gauge that the value would shoot up in the
Oh
span of
my.
a few months either, but I guess that happens, right? Focusing on the films, so, obviously you've been a Godzilla fan for a long time, right?
Mhm.
As you've grown, which films would you say kind of have become your favorites and why? I usually tell
Mm,
people go with a top three if you have a top three.
yeah. So I'm I'm like the worst fan to ask this question. I'm indecisive by nature when it comes to these things. I think every era is special in its own way. I like the Heisei era. I've been really into the Heisei era as of lately because when I was younger, I my really only outlet to Godzilla movies was the Showa era and the Millennium era. Like
Mm-hmm.
the library had mostly Showa era films, two Heisei films, which were Battle for Earth and King Ghidorah, and then
Mm-hmm.
some Millennium films. And I'm gonna age myself right here. Blockbuster mostly had Millennium films. So I really didn't get to see the Heisei era films until I started collecting movies when I was like 13, 14 years old. And
Mm-hmm.
by then I had already, played the Pipeworks games, had seen Cinemassacre's Godzilla-thon, and I was just like, oh wow, the Heisei era seems so cool. I mean, they have all these cool monsters, Biollante, Space Godzilla, Destroya, like I want to see I want to see their movies. So when I started collecting physical media and the Godzilla films, my first purchase was a double feature of Godzilla. I actually have it right here. Um, hang on. This double feature DVD of
Mm-hmm.
Space Godzilla and Destroya. I'll never forget it. It was I was at the mall with my mom and there was this independent video store. And I was like, "Oh, can we just go in there and have a look?" And then I went to the science fiction section, and they had a massive selection of Godzilla movies. And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And my mom was like, "You can get one. Like, I'll give you some money. You can get one." So I'm just like, "Oh my god, what? I don't even know where to begin." And then I was like, Heisei movies. So that was that. Yeah.
Good selection.
Yeah. And so yeah, as a kid, I was just I just didn't get a chance to see those movies, and I really wanted to. So when I was because my only outlets were the library and Blockbuster,
Mm-hmm.
and other than that, like there was no streaming back then, and I didn't know how to pirate movies,
Mm-hmm.
or I didn't know about like you could easily type in watch X movie, and then try to go through a million links and give your computer a million viruses until you actually find a free copy on like 123 movies or something. So
Mm-hmm.
my only outlet for the Heisei films was going to the mall or the FYE and
Mm-hmm.
actually buying them. And also just I also like them because just the atmosphere and the environment, Japan in the 80s and 90s, there's just something cool and aesthetic about it.
Yeah, the Heisei era is actually my favorite as well because I like the continuity between all the films. It's so like for me the Heisei era, and then I love the Kiru duology a lot, like because of that continuity. I feel like the Godzilla franchise would benefit from more continuity. I'm not saying like Marvel Cinematic Universe level of continuity, but something like the Heisei era. Now, so it's interesting. So my blockbuster only ever had The Return of Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Biollante.
Mm.
I did not know that any of the rest of the Heisei era existed, and this was like the mid to late '90s, so they weren't even released until I think it was 1998 or 1999. So like I saw the Trendmasters toys, I knew that all of these other characters existed, but I had never seen the movies, and I was like, what the hell is Space Godzilla? Like, what the hell is Batra? Like what are these, you know? So when I finally got to see them, I think it was, all the chopped up versions they would have on the Sci-Fi Channel or something like
Yeah.
that. Like I was just like mind blown. I was like, I think the last Heisei film I actually got to watch was Godzilla versus Mothra, which as a Mothra fan annoys me because that was the one that I wanted to watch the most. But I digress. So the Heisei era is mostly your favorite currently, right? Has that
I
always been the case?
currently always the case. Not really. Like I said, I'm very indecisive, and much like my top 10 Godzilla movies list, that like it changes all the time. So you could ask me that same question next week, and I'll be like, "Oh, I love the Millennium series," or like the Reiwa era is just killing it, you know?
That's okay though. We all fluctuate from time to
Oh
time.
yeah,
My
I'm
top three is always fluctuating, heaven knows. So I guess if we were to focus a little bit more on like the actual kaiju or the human characters, like which ones are you drawn to the most over the course of the entire franchise? And
Hmm.
what draws you to them specifically?
You know what? I think Rodan. I really liked Rodan. This even though his Heisei design is among one of my most hated Godzilla designs,
Not Rodan's best, that's for
n-
sure.
honestly, he was just having an off day, But I just didn't. I was just not a fan of how like stiff and like it was because it was obviously a puppet.
Hmm.
I just was not a fan of like how he was in that one. But he redeemed himself. Final Wars.
Oh,
S
Rodan
tier,
in Final
S
Wars.
tier.
I think that might be my favorite design of Rodan, honestly. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong,
Chef's
Monsterverse
kiss. It is
design.
awesome.
The Monsterverse design is phenomenal. Like, Molten Rodan, pretty cool. But
Mhm.
GFW Rodan, bam.
You want to know what is it? They got the look of the Heisei series with the mobility of the Showa era because in the Showa era he
Hmm.
was always a guy in a suit. Um, the Heisei era gave him a more modernized look, and then Final Wars combined the two and just said, "Here you go, and let's have him attack New York City."
Final Wars also gave Rodan personality.
Hmm.
Like Rodan was very like cagey and sly and like which we don't I mean we really have not seen personality from Rodan since like the Showa era, right? So it was like really cool to like kind of see that the different characters have personality, which kind of wild to think, but this year is the 20th anniversary of Godzilla Final Wars.
And they're showing it at G Fest. Let's
I am
when I
so
found out that
excited.
when I found out that they're showing at G Fest, I was jumping, bouncing off the walls. I was like, I'm gonna see this movie in a theater setting. One of my favorite Godzilla films of all time. Like, I'm just so ready for when just sit in the theater and when Don Fry goes, "Listen, kid, there's two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla."
He's
And everyone's just gonna
Godzilla.
go fucking apeshit. Like, yeah, let's go. Oh my
I
god,
am so
I'm
I've
pumped.
I am so excited. I believe it or not, I've been to several G Fests and I have never seen a Godzilla film at the Pickwick Theater.
Ooh,
So
no.
I don't know what's wrong with me. Like it clearly I have not made the wisest decisions. But I will be seeing Godzilla Final Wars. And I cannot think of a better first Godzilla film to watch because I used to be one of those very bougie people who's like this film is subpar, but now I'm at this point where I'm like, Godzilla Final War is, albeit a mess, it's a mess, but it is beautiful. Like it is so early 2000s and how
Yes, I was
chaotic it
just about to
is.
say, yes, it is like it is like quintessential early 2000s action movie with Godzilla. And that's why I like it so much. And it really is the really only Millennium era movie that sort of stands out from the rest, you know?
I would say so. And on the grand scheme of things, when it comes to like monster films, it is so unique because you don't see many monster films that, pull inspiration from franchises like Star Wars, Star Trek, um, martial arts
Matrix, there was even
films,
like
like
people were
The
comparing it to the
Matrix.
Matrix.
Yeah, like so there's so many little points of inspiration in it that just bring it together and make it Dragon Ball Z even. Like I was obsessed with Dragon Ball Z at the time, I remember, and I watched Godzilla Final Wars and I was just like, this is like Dragon Ball Z level fighting. What
Mm.
is going on right
It
now?
reminds me of like that it's got that early 2000s futurism feel. Like especially
mm.
when those scenes that take place in like the M organization base, like where everything is all like blown out and exposed and bright and glossy,
Like very industrial
like
um
Y2K aesthetic sort of feeling.
Y2K industrial. I like that. I do like that.
Or like
Yes.
Fruitiger Arrow maybe, I don't know.
No, that I think that's a very good way of describing it because the aesthetics of that film were very carefully selected and I don't think it gets enough credit when it comes to that. I mean, even like if you look at like the battlefields and the landscapes and so on and so forth, like the effects make it look very more ominous than I would say other Godzilla films have been,
Mm.
which I think is really unique. So I loved it. I love it, and I'm really excited that it's going to be at G Fest. It's as it should be, 20th anniversary, right? I'm still mentally processing the fact that that film is 20 years old.
I'm
Like
mentally processing the fact that 2014 is 10 years old, so I mean, I'm right there with you,
God,
man.
oh my goodness.
Like,
Anyway,
did you see? I mean, I was just about to say, like you said, you'd never seen it at the Pickwick. I was right there with you. Last year was my first Pickwick G Fest film, and it was 2014.
oh,
That was that was incredible. It was like I was reliving. It was like going to the theater on May 15th, 2014, like the Thursday night
mm-hmm.
release, all over again. Seeing it in a theater setting.
That like it has to be wild. Like I've seen the other films in theaters, just not specifically at G Fest, where I'm surrounded by people who are as Godzilla obsessed as I am. So about to ask like any particular human characters that you really like. So Rodan is arguably your favorite kaiju character. So like
One of them.
human characters, one of them.
Definitely top three.
Mm, good
Human
selection.
characters, that list is significantly shorter because growing up, I was the kid who's like, I don't care about the humans, I just want to see the monsters fight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I'm gonna have to go stick on the topic of Final Wars, Captain Gordon.
You can't go
Honestly,
wrong with Captain
no,
Gordon.
and the fact that like and having met Don Fry last year at G Fest just made me love his that character even more. Like for those of you who haven't met Don Fry, he is he's everything you would expect him to be. He's like
He
the,
is.
the typical macho man. He's like a pompous ass, but he's funny. He's always down to like chat. He's sarcastic. He's a wise ass, but I mean he's awesome. He's Don. He's Don Fry.
And you can tell he loved that role. He ate it up.
I
He
love
loved it.
Yeah, I love when he was so. Jacob Lingle and I over at Kaiju United, we interviewed Ryo Katamura, the director of Final Wars, and he talked about what it was like, the casting process to get Don Fry, and pretty much uh, Katamura had him in a Korean restaurant, just feeding him, giving him beer, and he's like, "Come on, Don, you got to do it." And he's like, "Oh man, I don't know, I don't think I can act." And then he's like, "All right, I'll do it." And
He
and during
caved,
his
finally.
yeah, well, good thing he did. Like I don't think I could see anybody else playing Captain Gordon.
Right. No, I think it was an excellent casting selection. And yeah, if you've not read that interview by Kaiju United, everybody go read it. I think it came out in, was it April, I think? March or April?
Like end of March, beginning of April.
Phenomenal interview because it really unpacks a lot of the inspiration and creation process behind Godzilla Final Wars. So if you love Godzilla Final Wars, I think it's definitely worth checking out. So here's a slightly more overarching big question for you. And this is one I ask everybody, but how has Godzilla shaped you into the person you are today?
It's definitely given me a hobby. It's given me something to be a fan of for sure. I think it really I don't know, sort of made me, I guess, resilient to criticism of being a nerd because
Mm-hmm.
I went to high school in the early 2010s, and that was sort of like right on the cusp of when like being a nerd was sort of like cool and socially acceptable. Like everybody played video games, like even like the kids who played sports and the quote unquote cool kids, even though there really wasn't like a popular group
Mm-hmm.
at my high school, but everyone who was like who would consider the popular kids, they play video games too. But it was like even like everybody knew, but you had to keep that hidden, you know.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like, if I like came to school wearing like a Godzilla shirt, people would be like, "Oh, okay." I mean, I did anyway. So, yeah, I really didn't care if people thought like, yeah, I watch Godzilla movies. Yeah, I play video games. Yeah, I like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So what? And yeah, I don't really know how to answer that question besides just like it really just sort of shaped me as a nerd. It's like the foundation of me being a geek, I guess.
I think that was the perfect answer to the question, honestly, because like the things that we love are often an extension of who we are, right?
Hmm.
I am all for re-owning being a nerd because I went to high school in like the early to mid 2000s, and at that time like it was very like you were absolutely shamed if you were a nerd,
Yeah.
right? And well, at least in my high school, so like everybody always had to keep it hush hush. Like, oh, you like Godzilla? Okay, well, don't let people hear about that because that will just give them more ammo to work with. Which is wild because in elementary school, I remember people would like my friends and I would play Godzilla all the time outside for recess. But then at a certain point, like after middle school and entering into high school, there was like this shift, right? Like where if you liked those things, people would like just kind of like make fun of you. I will never forget. So back it was like in high school, I think it was my freshman year, we would all get like that student handbook thing, like a planner calendar thing.
Oh yeah, we had
And
those.
so what I would do is I would go on like those old GeoCities website Godzilla websites, or I would go on like Barry's Temple for Godzilla, and I would like print off like images of mostly Mothra, of course, and I would like stick them in my planner, and then heaven forbid, one person found it one day and they like eviscerated me. They were like, Johnny, what is this? What is this gay shit in here? This butterfly, like what? And of course, I was like, can we not like let me enjoy this character.
Right.
Looking back, it's funny now looking back on it, but like at that point in my life, like that was hard to deal with because when you love something that much, it kind of becomes part of you. And when somebody criticizes it at that time, if you're vulnerable, it can almost feel like just a direct attack on you, right?
Right.
But no, like I think now that we've grown and we have found these communities, I think that we've kind of re-owned being a nerd again because we've we have found like community in it. Does that make sense? Like we
Yeah,
have found belonging in it. So,
yeah.
um,
I never kept it like I was never even though like I sort of kept it hidden. Um, if people found out, I wasn't like ashamed of it or anything. I was just
mhm.
like, yeah, this is what I like. You know, if someone doesn't like that I like Godzilla, well, they can go fuck themselves. I don't care.
No, I at this point now I definitely agree. When I was in high school, I was like, oh, hiding from
Well, yeah,
everything.
now maybe if I was in like when I was in high school, I probably would have like been a little bit afraid, but at the end of the day, like
Hmm.
doesn't matter, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's funny because periodically, I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes as an adult, like I will have like say somebody finds out that, oh, I have a Godzilla podcast, blah, like sometimes they'll be like, that's what you spend your time doing, Donnie? Like what? And I'm like, yes, it's my time to spend, not yours. So bye.
Like I do not keep even at work. Like I do not keep that hidden. In my office at work, I have a big Godzilla Final Wars poster and two Funko Pop Godzillas on my desk.
I also have some Godzilla stuff in my own office. So, that's actually a pretty convenient segue because my next question is largely about collecting. So, one, would you consider yourself a collector? And two, what things do you typically collect? What favorites do you have, etc.?
So I'm not really a figure collector. I mostly collect, movies and physical media. Um, I have started to collect some more figures recently. When I go to G Fest, I plan on buying a few. Um, but I try to do physical media because one, I really don't have the space right now to put all the figures. Most, if not all, of my figures are in a storage unit, just waiting for me to move to a bigger place and find some place to put them. But
Hmm.
with DVDs and Blu-rays, I can just plop them on a shelf and that's it.
Right. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that's good. I similarly, I mean, I have some collection. I mean, you can see some of my stuff, but like, I by all means have not unpacked all of my stuff because my fiance's arrangement with me is that, like, he likes to decorate the rest of the house, but my Godzilla stuff stays confined to the office typically until we end up we are going to be doing like a photo collage wall, and at some point, some Godzilla stuff can start being peppered in that. So
Yeah.
we're working on it. We're workshopping it. So
My girlfriend, like every time I bring home like a new toy, she's just like, "Oh my God." Like
she's
we
just like,
don't
I
have the
know.
space for that. I'm like, don't worry, it's going in storage. And he's like even if we move into a bigger space, like where are you gonna put that? I'm like, don't worry, like it's an like she's more or less like, why don't you just like wait until we have a bigger space? I'm just like, it's kind of like an investment, you know? Like I don't know when we're gonna move into a bigger space, and by the time we do, this figure could cost twice as much. So
Mm.
have it now, keep it in storage, and
I
and she
think that
just
is
roll, and she's just like, okay, you.
when it comes to our significant others, you just have to be like, let us obsess over other things. Because at some point, they're going to continue enriching us, right? So, okay, now
She
let's
by
talk a
no
little.
means discourages me. Like
Oh yeah,
she
my
fully
fiance doesn't either.
understands it. Like he's a Godzilla geek. He likes his collectibles. It's as long as he can
Periodically,
still pay the rent, that's fine.
that's kind of our arrangement too. Periodically, my fiance might surprise me sometimes, like during Christmas, with a figure that I don't have, and I'll be like, "See, you are okay with enabling my love of this, right?" So let's talk a little bit about your growth as a creator as well. So, I mean, you ended up creating this Instagram page that has a huge following, Kaiju Junkie. What was your vision for that?
So there really was no vision. I started the page in December of 2018. I had always wanted like an online outlet where I could express my love of Godzilla. I had tried the YouTube channel millions of times before, but that never went anywhere. Um, and then one day I was just bored. I was like, maybe Instagram. And originally, so I made the page, and originally the idea was going to be it was going to be a community effort. The model would be like, send me anything like a picture, a clip of Godzilla or any kaiju movie, and I'll post it to the page, give you credit. I think one person did that, like as the entire only one person. Um, and then I was like, all right, well, this isn't working. Um, and I was already like posting pictures and stuff, and so I was like, all right, I guess I got to do it myself. But so I dropped the community collaboration model and just kept posting random pictures, random clips, and I put a little. It was sort of picking up steam. I got like 100 followers within like 3 weeks, but I wasn't content. And then I had a little bit of money to burn, and this was around the time when Instagram was really pushing paid posts.
Hmm.
So I was just like, you know what? Let me just throw $20 on this one post and let's see what happens. Got a bunch of followers from that, hit 1,000, and did that a few more times, and then it just snowballed from there. I think I started in December. I hit 1,000 in May, and then that was May 2019. So Godzilla King of the Monsters was coming out, so there was all that hype, and and I've noticed whenever there's like a new Godzilla release, there's always like a chance for creators. At least I've seen it on Instagram. Not sure how it is on other platforms, but
Hmm.
there's always the opportunities for creators to cash in on the hype. And if you know how to work these platforms, work with the algorithm, play by the rules, if you will, you will get followers. And like the opening night of King of the Monsters, I hit 2,000, and just yeah, it's just grown from there. There really and there really has, like I said before, there really was no plan. Like I wasn't hoping like, oh, I'm gonna make this page and get invited to Toho and blah blah blah. I was just like, I'm just posting clips and memes and yeah, and it was really the first time I interacted with the fandom really, because back in the day, like I never really went on any of those old Godzilla forums. I never visited Barry's Temple of Godzilla. The only website that I had gone on was an old website that doesn't exist anymore, and I think I'm like stuck in some sort of Mandela effect because I cannot find any evidence of this website ever existing.
What one was it?
It was called Kaiju HQ, or like the Kaiju headquarters.
I remember it very
Okay,
well.
oh, okay, good. So this it did exist. It wasn't just some
That's
fever
where I
dream.
got that's where I got some of those images from that I would stick in my little Godzilla planner for
Yeah,
school.
I remember it was just like the coolest thing. There was like clips on it. There were pictures. There was even like a whole section dedicated to fan fiction. They
Hmm.
had like basically a precursor to memes. Like I think it was called Monster Island Funnies, and
Hmm.
people would
Yeah.
just like put speech bubbles on stills of Godzilla movies, like fuck you Kong, fuck you Godzilla, stuff
I
like that.
remember
Yeah,
I remember those vividly.
yeah, so like that was really the only online interaction with
Hmm.
was like seeing what people posted on there. And then when I made Kaiju Junkie, it I met some people, real sort of, group chats, really interacting with people. Shout out to the Kaiju Archives, who was really like he was really the first friend I had ever made. And it was it was more or less I just kept like DMing him, and I'm like, oh, we're at we're the same amount of followers. I'm gonna hit 1,000 before you do, and then he's like, oh no, I'm gonna hit 1,000 before you do, and then we just became friends.
You're like just kind
Um,
of encouraging each other through the whole process.
yeah, and there was a while where we were doing races to milestones, like who's gonna hit 3K first, who's gonna hit 4K first.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, and then that so yeah, those initial friends, and then I started going to G Fest, and that's where I really like interacted with the fandom. So I've been a Godzilla fan all my life, but as far as like I guess you could say a community member, that's really more recent. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really getting a firsthand view of how massive, but also like at the same time how niche it is. Like
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
like to compare it to like, the rock scene in the 80s, everybody knows everyone else, different like new bands pop up every single day.
Yeah.
Um
No, I agree completely. That's a good juxtaposition, actually.
yeah.
So G-Fest is also consequently where you became connected with Kaiju United as well.
Yes.
So like, and your trajectory with that has really taken off. So talk a little bit about your involvement with Kaiju United and how that's grown.
So my involvement with Kaiju United was just chance. Like there was like if I didn't like say anything, I wouldn't be a part of Kaiju United. So I was hanging out with my buddy John, Unite Godzilla fans who you know.
Yeah.
It was last year on like it was Friday morning of the convention, and we were just walking around, pointing out like, oh, there's that person, and we were just sitting in the lobby, and I forget where we were going, but I saw these two people, Mason and Mary, Mason Zilla and Mary Bear. You know who they are?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I know those guys. That's Mason and Mary. And John was like, oh, he wants to meet you. Grabs me by the wrist. I was like, what? And introduces me to Mason. And the two of them, they were in this larger group. And amongst those group was Jacob. So I just hung out. I pretty much got introduced to like, oh yeah, Mason, hey, how you doing? Like, yeah, Mary, I know you. We've spoken in DMs a couple times, blah blah blah. And yeah, so it was just a matter of just hanging out with that group. Yeah, before I knew it, like we were hanging out the entire weekend, and that's another why last year's G Fest was so like I guess special to me, or just like my favorite one so far, because it was the first time I made new friends in not just in the community, but in general. I'm a very introverted person. Like my social circle is not that big.
Hmm.
Um, so like whenever I make new friends, I'm just like, oh, it's like a good feeling. But
Right.
yeah. So anyways, Jacob was part of that group, and I don't exactly remember how I found out he had Kaiju United. I think it was after G Fest, but I had interviewed during G Fest. I had interviewed Richard Pusatari um, about about Godzilla 1998, and how he was the guy who coined the term Godzilla in name only. And I made some Instagram clips out of that, but I had the full interview, and I really didn't know what I was gonna do with it because I had no plans on releasing the full thing. And Jacob had told I found out about Jacob's website, and I'm just like, hey, can I uh, can I put this in the website? Can I put this on the website? I wrote out the transcripts, sent it, and did a couple more contributions. Did an interview with Yoko Higuchi,
Hmm.
and
Which was a phenomenal interview, by the way.
thank you. Yeah, I mean I was just doing what I thought was right. Like I had set up lights and set up two cameras in my one of the conference rooms at my job, and Jacob was like, "My God, this is like the production value is incredible." I'm like, uh,
That's part of what made it so stunning. Like I was just like angles, like what it like this is cool.
I mean, maybe I'm just being humble, but like I was just like, oh, it's just two DSLRs and a light.
You are being very humble. We will sing your praises, don't worry.
thank, thank you.
Because they are well deserved. And now like fast forward to now, you are literally the senior editor of Kaiju United. You create content for Kaiju United. That's so cool that you've gotten to this point and now you have like this critical role in, enriching a significant community in our fandom. So I think that's a cause for celebration.
Thank you. I, I don't know. It's just like yeah, it's cool. I don't know. It's just I'm just doing what I think is fun. Um, I don't
You're
know.
doing what you love. That's all that
Yeah,
matters, right?
yeah.
So I guess, well, the last question that I have for you is it's a pretty straightforward question, I'd say, but do you have any specific advice for Godzilla fans who may be new to the franchise?
It's like making friends anywhere else. You just got to find who you vibe with. Just the fact that we're all here to geek out over giant monsters makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, we all have something that we already bond over, so that's a very good first step. That's something very similar to that I tell people too. It's like, there are so many like communities within the Godzilla fandom. Like one of those you will feel like you have a sense of belonging in. Like,
Mhm.
and that's why going back to what I said earlier, like I've been in many, many, many communities over the last 20 years in the Godzilla fandom, whether it be forums, social media. I have not quite felt as good in a community as I have with Kaiju United. So, like, I think that is definitely a testament to all the hard work that you guys have done to make it a very welcoming, diverse, and an inclusive space. So, thank you for that.
Of course.
So, where can people find your stuff? Plugs.
So, I mean, Instagram Kaiju Junkie is the my main outlet. I am also on YouTube at Kaiju Junkie, but that's mostly just for like uploading panels that I'm on. Which also, if you're going to G Fest, stop by Ballroom. What was it? So the big one. I forget if it's
Ballroom
CB
A.
or AB this year. One of
I
them.
think I think Ballroom C is the smaller ballroom, if memory serves me correctly.
Okay, yeah, then AB. Friday 3 p.m. I'm gonna be doing the Godzilla -1 discussion panel with Jacob Lingle, Elijah Thomas, and potentially a fourth guest. We had one of our panelists back out at the last minute, so we're looking to replace with someone else potentially, but
Exciting.
it may just be the three of us. So, but and also on Sunday at 1 p.m. I think. God, I'm. This is something I should know right off the bat. Yes, Sunday at 1 p.m. Come to Ballroom AB for the. I'm doing the MonsterVerse 10 years later. Doing that with Unite Godzilla fans, Kaiju Combat, and if you've been to G Fest, you know him as the guy with the hair, Ian Scrooge Jones.
Yep.
um, if you've been to G Fest and you see a guy that looks like he just walked right off of a glam rock movie music video, that's the guy. I'm also doing with Elijah right after the MonsterVerse panel, a Godzilla Final Wars panel. So doing a lot at G
Uh,
Fest this year.
yeah, you got a busy schedule. I'm only going to be there for 2 days, but for me, I'm going to be Saturday at 11. I'm going to be on the Kaiju Writers panel. Later on that day, I'm going to be doing a signing with Matt Frank. So,
Awesome. Oh
um,
yeah, but I had picked up the Godzilla 70th anniversary. You guys, that poem you guys
yes.
did, that was really cool.
Thank you, thank you.
I
I
love the art
am
on that.
I'm still mind boggled that we managed to make it happen, but we did. So, but Nick, this has been such a fun conversation. I knew it was going to be a fun conversation. But everyone, please go find the social links. I will have those listed in the description section below of this video. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget that Growing Up with Godzilla premieres on the first and third Sunday of each month, usually, if I have my crap together. And beyond that, my friends, keep standing tall. All right? Have a good rest of your night.
Good
Bye.
night.